3 months from today, Steve Lawson will be in Warren County facing a jury. He is one of 3 men charged in connection to the murder of Crystal Rogers. Thanks for joining us on WHAS 11 News at 5. I'm Connie Leonard.
And I'm Doug Proffitt. Today is attorneys back in court in Bardstown warning that they fear they won't be ready, while the judge says that's not an option. Our Shay McAllister and Jessica Farley have the story from the Nelson County Courthouse.
One step closer to a trial date. Today's pretrial conference was just a meeting between all of the attorneys. Nothing big said, no big decisions made, but the judge making it clear he intends for this case to go to trial in just a few short months. And Crystal Rogers' family tell us that's important to them too.
In a hearing that lasted less than 10 minutes on Thursday, Steve Lawson's attorney team continued their push to delay his trial, reiterating the large amount of evidence they were handed 6 months ago when they took on this case.
We, as Mr. Lawson's counsel, are currently reviewing the discovery and certainly have concerns about how overwhelming it is, given our appointment in August of 2024.
The attorneys believe a trial that plays out before they're ready could lead to a future appeal. They also shared they're worried Steve Lawson himself hasn't had time to read and comprehend the evidence against him. That concern prompted the judge to suggest this unique offer.
I can have him brought up here to the courthouse and we can make things available where he can review whatever he needs to every day between now and the trial date, if that's what it takes.
Last month, the prosecutor filed this document on behalf of Crystal Rogers' family. The document asked for the trial to move forward without any more delays, writing, "Victims' rights shall be respected and protected." Steve Lawson will be tried independently from the other co-defendants in the case because of what the judge calls undue prejudice against Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson, if all 3 were tried together. In court documents, the judge writes, if the 3 defendants were tried together, jurors would hear Steve Lawson's wildly inconsistent testimony, but would not hear why his story has changed so much. On Thursday, Judge Charles Sims, who already agreed to delay the trial once, said he wants this case tried at the Warren County Justice Center on the scheduled date at the end of May.
I'm trying which way I can to get this case to a conclusion because my calendar is brutal for the rest of this year, too.
Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson are scheduled to be tried together at the end of June. For the Ballard family, who filled the gallery behind the prosecutor Thursday, there is a cautious optimism that they're closer to justice today than they ever have been before.
Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson will be tried together at the end of June. Both attorneys on that case had asked for separate trials, but the judge denied those requests, saying the men can be tried together and receive a fair and impartial trial in Warren County. For now, reporting in Nelson County, I'm Shay McAllister, WHAS 11 on your side.
By the way, Steve Lawson's attorneys thanked the judge for the offer to bring him to the courtroom to review the evidence without saying if they will take him up on it. The trial is scheduled to begin still on May 27th.
One person is facing charges following a road rage incident that involved a van filled with children and a driver getting shot. It began around 9:30 yesterday morning on Taylor Boulevard near Beecher Street in the Wyandotte neighborhood. Now, according to the arrest citation, 41-year-old Graham Bain was in a vehicle going back and forth with a Honda Odyssey, passing each other up. The Odyssey was carrying 3 young girls. Police say Bain eventually hit that van on its side, causing it nearly to flip over, and the driver of the van then pulled out a firearm and shot at Bain, who he says he was preparing to hit the van again. Bain was struck by gunfire and was later arrested that night, charged with wanton endangerment. Bain's set to appear before a judge tomorrow morning at 9.
Happening today in Frankfort, name, image, likeness. You know it best as NIL. Kentucky's best-known athletic director showed up in Frankfort today, hoping lawmakers will make the revenue stream to athletes permanent.
UK's Mitch Barnhart and U of L's Josh Hurd want lawmakers to let the schools directly pay student athletes. But as WHAS 11's Alexandra Goldberg shows us from Frankfort, it's up to the schools to fund it.
We just want to say, hey, this is what we're doing to put you guys in the best position possible to be successful. And I think this legislation is doing that. So when our coaches are having those conversations about attending the University of Louisville or the University of Kentucky, it's like, hey, we're ahead of everybody else.
The two biggest figures in Kentucky athletics are in Frankfurt for name, image, and likeness law, also known as NIL, that would authorize universities to directly pay student athletes for playing college sports.
Senate Bill 3 passes unanimously with favorable expression. Thank you, gentlemen, for that excellent presentation.
The Senate Education Committee approved Senate Bill 3, sponsored by Senate Majority Floor Leader Max Wise and supported by U of L Athletics Director Josh Hurd and UK Athletics Director Mitch Barnhart.
Quite honestly, institutions and the NCAA had a large majority of the power. And then with the approval of name, image, and likeness, that pendulum swung over here. And student athletes have a lot of power now.
Lawmakers say they don't want Kentucky to fall behind in the evolving national standard, a standard that athletics directors are confident will change because of a federal settlement, House versus NCAA, that is expected to reform NIL across the nation. Each institution would be able to spend up to $20.5 million on their athletes' NIL. But it's up to the schools to fund it.
The settlement will come in play July 1. This will give us the ability to directly compensate our student athletes through university funds and through third-party affiliations that we have, associated entities.
This bill would allow Kentucky's laws to be in compliance with what the federal NIL settlement could do for athletes. House versus NCAA is supposed to be finalized on April 7th and would be implemented on July 1st.
Things are changing quickly. It's important that we keep pace with the change in a way that ensures that we're successful and we can remain competitive on not just a state landscape, but a conference landscape, but a national landscape with our peers.
Barnhart says the university's main pillars are to put championship rings on fingers and diplomas in hand. But if this bill passes this session and the federal settlement is approved, student athletes would see a guaranteed check in the bank. In Frankfurt, Alexandra Goldberg, WHAS11 on your side.
Name, image, and likeness was first established in the state through an executive order in 2022. This would codify NIL in state law and expand what it can do for athletes.
As medical marijuana is taking off here in Kentucky, a longtime CBD producer, Cornbread Hemp, is expanding right here now in Louisville. Its products like gummies, oils, and lotions can be found across the country and at about 50 stores in the Kentuckiana area. Today, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear announcing a $1 million investment will create 50 full-time jobs in the city.
With this additional investment, we'll be able to employ more than 100 people to continue the Kentucky tradition of growing hemp in Kentucky. It's the best place in the world to grow hemp, and we're proud to be growing it right here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
According to the governor, the company's new jobs will include production, fulfillment, and sales positions as well.
President Trump says he plans to impose tariffs against Canada and Mexico starting next week.
The notice comes after those tariffs were originally put on hold following agreements with both nations. According to the president, posting on Truth Social today, illicit drugs like fentanyl are being smuggled into the United States at unacceptable levels. The president believes taxing both countries' goods will force them to crack down on the drug trafficking. China, which already faces 10% on U.S. tariffs, will also receive another 10% next week. Well, the United Kingdom Prime Minister met with President Trump at the White House today, where much of the focus was on ending Russia's war in Ukraine.
It comes ahead of another high-stakes meeting between Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky tomorrow. ABC's Christiane Cordero has the latest from Washington.
Today, a handshake briefly cuts the tension between two world leaders. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer entered the White House alongside President Trump, walking into a meeting aimed at ending the war in Ukraine.
Right now, we don't have a deal. We have Russia, we have Ukraine. I think we're very well advanced.
Starmer brought with him a letter from King Charles inviting Trump to a second state visit. The meeting comes 1 week after U.S. officials began negotiations directly with Russia and without Ukraine at the table, leaving Ukraine and its European allies scrambling to respond. Ahead of the visit, the UK announced a big increase in the British defense budget and has agreed to help enforce peace once a deal is made.
We've already indicated that we'll play our full part in making sure that any deal, if there is one, and I hope there is, and I think this is a historic moment to make sure it's a lasting deal.
President Trump has refused to acknowledge Russia started the war and has praised Vladimir Putin while falsely calling the democratically elected Zelensky a dictator.
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
Trump has said Putin would have to make concessions to land a deal, but when asked what they might be, he instead pointed to a concession for Ukraine to make.
What concessions would you like to see?
Oh, I don't want to tell right now, but I can tell you that NATO you can forget about.
Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Trump and Zelensky have struck an economic deal giving the U.S. a share of Ukraine's rare earth mineral deposits. Ukraine is hoping the U.S. continues to provide much-needed military support in its war against Russia. Both countries' leaders are set to meet tomorrow to sign that deal.
And we have some brand new late details for you here at 5 about that section of 5th Street in downtown Louisville. It remains closed at this hour tonight after Tuesday's major natural gas leak evacuated the mayor's office and other downtown government buildings. Nobody was hurt. Now you can see just this afternoon, Louisville Metro Police are still blocking 5th at Jefferson. LG&E moments ago told us that crews today also discovered a sinkhole underneath the street due to the recent heavy rains. The LG&E crews were able to pinpoint that gas leak in a plastic pipe, but they tell us they're now working to figure out how to handle the sinkhole, what to do with it. The massive leak happened Tuesday morning and even had Mayor Craig Greenberg out in the street as the buildings were ventilated. LG&E did say today that they are working to restore gas service by Saturday.